And then obviously the last team is Tampa, because why would you ever want to play Tom Brady in the postseason ever?
Geoff Mosher, football genius.
Yeah.
Well, it is a Birds 365 Wednesday edition. Jeff Kerr, Jody McDonald, and Geoff Mosher, who are going to have to ask to put the Cheerios down for a second. We'll let him finish as soon as we're finished with him here, but he's going to give us 20 minutes of Eagles insight for the next several minutes. Mr. Mosher, how are you?
I'm great. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing?
Can't complain, Jeff. Can't complain.
You're snacking it up pretty good there with your cereal. Eagle fans seem to be, pardon the pun, eating it up. This Eagles playoff clinching spot in Week 17 before we even get to the end of the season. Jeff Lurie told us last year that this was going to be a transitional year for the Philadelphia Eagles. Is more to it than, hey, look, Nick Sirianni, although he may have been questioned after his first press conference, has been phenomenal as his coach. He's going to get the yeoman's part of the credit for this. Who else should? That in a year that was supposed to be transitional ends up as a playoff year. Somebody should be getting some pretty damn good credit for this. Who should that be?
Well, I mean, we can go down the list. A lot of people for credit, from players to coaches, as you brought up, management. I don't know that this year is not still transitional, though. So I don't want to kind of move the goalpost and say that because they made the playoffs that the year is – the expectations may have been a little bit different. But I think depending on what happens here in Week 18 and what happens in the first round of the playoffs, very much could determine how the offseason goes as well. So I still believe the evaluation part of the year is going on, and I believe that there could be a lot of different type of changes based on how the next game or two or beyond go. And so it, to me, is still a transitional year in that the team could look fairly different next year. And I think the best part of this year is that not a lot of people saw it coming, especially at 2-5. And they're doing it in a way that I don't think is going to last very long, or that you're going to see a whole lot with this heavy running game. And we know in Philadelphia, people love that. So I almost feel like it's kind of a one-year gift to the Eagle fan who had to survive an offseason last year that was not supposed to be what it wound up being. And so it's something that you enjoy in the moment, and then you see how things are moving forward.
Jeff, you know as well as I do, the NFL's a week-to-week league. Like 7 days ago, Tua Tagovailoa was the Dolphins franchise quarterback. Now they can't wait to run him out of town because he plays like crap against Tennessee. Are you hearing anything that maybe the ownership, they love Jalen Hurts, or are they committed to him for 2022 and beyond?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jeff. My sense is, and I'll go back to what I said before, that it's still an evaluation that, from what I hear, they do love Jalen Hurts. They love him as a person. They love him as a leader. They think he's a developing quarterback as well. But, I also sense that they're not losing sight of what the year has been, what the schedule has looked like over the last 7 weeks, and what lies ahead. Obviously, a better Dallas Cowboys team, and we don't even know who's going to be starting in that game. But then clearly in the first round of the wild card game, that's another litmus test to really measure what this team really is. And, I think I'm not trying to be a downer, but I think it's fair to kind of understand that, as you say, it's a week-to-week league. It's a league of semantics and a strange way of judging, right? Like the Eagles made the playoffs. Well, 2 years ago, would this have been a playoff team without the extra 7th seed? I don't know. And then therefore, would you be saying this is a team that didn't make the playoffs 2 straight years? Because they added a team that made it a more available for a mediocre team to make the playoffs, you may look at this team differently, just based on that label of playoff team. So I think there's a lot to be determined here. It is a week-to-week league, and if the Eagles do well and win a playoff game, we'll be talking about what they were able to accomplish in that week and what that might mean for the future.
All right. Yeah, I do want to jump back from if the Eagles win a playoff game. Certainly a conversation worth having. But this week, Dallas Cowboys coming to town. The coach is committed to nothing as to who's going to play, who's not going to play, who's going to come off COVID, who's not coming off COVID. He probably isn't going to do so till right up until Saturday. Geoff Mosher, your Nick Sirianni crystal ball. How's this going to be played going into the game against the Cowboys?
My crystal ball, my look into the future really requires me to look just back a little bit to training camp, to, shorter practices, to the preseason, nobody playing. I believe this team follows its medical staff recommendations as much as any team that really leans heavily on either sports science or incorporates the medical staff almost as much as the coaching staff, the way the Eagles have. So I suspect they are going to rest a lot of their starters. And, so that will make this game very exciting. So we'll see. And by the way, when I say that, you guys know this, it's almost impossible to rest all your starters. Nobody has 10 offensive linemen. Nobody has like 5 backup offensive linemen and 5 backup defensive linemen. So, and what the linebacker situation looks like for the Eagles. So guys will have to play a little bit. It's not like you're going to see a true preseason game out there with a 75-man roster and you don't sniff a good player on the field. But for the most part, I don't think this is going to be a very competitive game, meaning that the teams are going to be out there really busting their hump to try to win and make it mean something.
All right, Geoff, let me jump in and I'll let you get the next question in. The way you laid it out, which I kind of agree with almost to an exact point, but I got to ask you a question on it. Knowing the game and what they're attempting to achieve, if we're on the same page mentally here, does Jalen Reagor play a lot, a little, none whatsoever? Does he fall into the protected player category or the who gives a what? We got to get somebody out there catching passes. How is Jalen Reagor's snap count going to end up on Saturday?
Somehow I knew this was going to come back to Jalen Reagor out of all of this. I can't listen. As I sit here now, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Jalen Hurts even played a little bit. I doubt it, but maybe,
does not see the field.
Probably not. No, but I think Jalen Reagor will probably play some. Yeah, I would think so.
Geoff, you guys do a ton of film breakdown on Inside Birds, and you guys talk about it throughout the year, which one of the reasons why I listen to you guys. So
thank you.
There's one thing that we always talk in the preseason, like maybe Eagles that are going to break out, surprise you. Who's been the biggest surprising Eagle this year, good or bad?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Certainly Jordan Mailata is not someone that we thought or knew, I should say, was going to, he obviously the arrow was pointing up last year, but you didn't realize he was going to come and just really dominate the way he has as like a really good cornerstone left tackle. So that part to me has been a big and a good surprise. Just in general, the offensive guard play as we stay on the offensive line. I mean, they've been down to like number 5 and number 6 at times. So after losing Sayamalu, after losing Brandon Brooks, after with Landon Dickerson getting a little beat up, somebody else has recently gone down. Whose name? Jack Driscoll. So for the way the guards have played, I think that's been phenomenal. TJ Edwards on defense has made a really big difference in the run game. And at least stabilized a lot of their issues that they were having early on when they were trying to, trot Eric Wilson out there. So, those guys to me have really made a difference. You expect what you've got from Darius Slay, you expect, the safeties they're just kind of there. I don't know. You're getting great play. Defensive line, you expect to get things out of Sweat, Barnett, Javon Hargrave. Did I see him breaking out for 7.5 to 9.5 sacks? No, but I mean he did sign a really big contract. I expected him to be a pretty good player, and he started to come on at the end of last year. So I would say that, basically, and I expected Dallas Goedert once the Zach Ertz trade went through to really kind of step up and be that number one tight end. So I look at Edwards and Mailata as the best examples of development right now.
Like them both, which, by the way, means they shouldn't be playing on Saturday. Both of those two guys should be sitting on the side.
Edwards might have to.
All right, Jeff, doing this for 30-plus years in this town, there are individuals, specifically with the Philadelphia Eagles, you can go in any sport across the board, but specifically the Eagles, who become lightning rod guys, who no matter what the conversation is, you got to get on one side of the fence or the other. Either you're a big fan or you're a big detractor. And one of the guys who's kind of surprisingly, kind of fitting question that Jeff just asked, a surprising lightning rod guy to me is Jonathan Gannon. That people have an opinion on him, and it's pretty strong. Either way, one or the other. Eagles are one of the better statistically ranked defenses in the National Football League, but they don't play aggressive enough like Philadelphia Eagle fans want to see. The Eagles have been really bad in the first half of games this last month and change. Oh, but they've been great in the second half of games, and they're shutting teams out. It's the yin and the yang. There seems to be no middle. We know the answer lies somewhere there in the gray of the middle, which people don't want to seem to get to with Jonathan Gannon. So my question to you is, more good or more bad?
More good. Not to say that I'm not one of those people, though, who has questioned some of his play calls and decision-making and aggressiveness. I certainly am. It's funny. I actually defended Jonathan Gannon more when they were 2-5 because I felt that the personnel issues that they have and still have versus the caliber of opponent they were playing versus the idea that he's just literally getting his feet wet with the team almost should have told you that it was going to be a very difficult start for this team. But lately, I find myself a little more critical in moments of games. I'll give you a great example. This Washington game they just played, all right? The last drive of the game, Washington starts backed up in their own territory. First pass is tipped by Milton Williams. Second pass, he's hurried, and Heineke throws it to Wendell Smallwood, and he barely, could get that pass. It was an incomplete pass. He was rushed. So you got him on 3rd and 10 in their own territory with less than 2 minutes to go, and they played the softest coverage that you can imagine and gave up the easiest pitch and catch throw from Heineke to the tight end to move the chains, right? And what happens is after that, then they make a few plays, and all of a sudden they're trying to throw the ball into the end zone for a chance to win the game there. And I'm not like Jim Johnson or any defensive coordinator, but I know that if you pressure a quarterback on 3rd and 10 with just one extra guy, if you make him throw the ball a little bit quicker than he has to, there's a good chance that even if he completes the pass, the receiver doesn't even have enough time to get past the first down marker. If you do what the Ravens do, and I'm not saying he should have done this, but bring everybody on a cover zero, then he's got to throw the ball immediately, like throw a jump ball up for grabs. And the percentage of him completing that pass are really, really low, especially compared to the pitch and catch that you gave up on 3rd and 10 there. And it almost came back to bite them. And to be honest with you, when that's Tom Brady instead of Taylor Heineke or Garrett Gilbert, that is going to bite them. And that has bitten them in the past. So I don't think that this guy needs to be fired. I don't think he's the worst thing ever. I think he's as bright as they say he is, but he's certainly timid in certain spots that leave the team vulnerable.
Jeff, you kind of, let us segue in my next question here, because I was going to bring up the cover zero thing. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I feel like the Eagles, if they run cover zero, it's very rare this year. Like it might be like maybe 10 or 15%, probably one of the lowest in the league, Why do you think it's because of that? Like Gannon's just afraid to get beat by the big play?
Well, I mean, it's like violence in movies. Cover zero isn't for everybody, right? Like the Ravens do it like 20 times a game. I know, like, I don't think Jim Schwartz ever did a cover zero except for that one time.
The Titans game.
The Jets game 2 years ago when Luke Falk started and he blitzed everybody. He was blitzing guys from the mezzanine level in that game. So, but in general, to your point, Jeff, I think that and they've stated this, their whole goal is to limit explosive plays and try to get more than your opponent. And the best way to limit explosive plays is to have your safeties deep and keep everything in front of you. We saw first 7 weeks he was playing so much cover 2 that it was exhausting watching the Eagles get picked apart across the middle. I credit him. He has changed. He's played more safety in the box, cover 1, and he's played more man defense, especially on third down. And he has blitzed a little more. And actually, this last game against Washington, one of the things that they did really well was disguise. Everybody moving after the snap. And you could see Heineke had trouble figuring out where to go at times because what he saw after the snap was different than what he saw at the snap. And those are all good things. But yeah, he is not going – he wants to limit the big plays, so he does want to keep at least one safety deep. And that will hurt him at times, I predict, in the postseason.
All right. Got to ask you about what transpired Monday with this football team. We did our show, and John went down to the NovaCare complex and found out 12 Eagles had tested positive for the coronavirus, and they were going into protocols after the Eagles had just the previous week, through Nick Sirianni, stated, we're going above and beyond. There are the protocols, and then there are the Eagle protocols, and that's why we haven't been tremendously affected. Oh, but they got 12 guys positive on Monday, and if they all get out of it by Saturday, they can play them in the game, and then they don't have to have them tested for 90 days. Eagles,
it's amazing, isn't it?
System mode.
Well, all I know is because, whatever conspiracy theory you want, I'm fine with it because this team was better than any other team in the league at controlling the outbreak. Then they go and win a game, clinch the division. The next day, every half the team's on the list. So I can't figure that one out.
FedEx Field, maybe?
What's that?
FedEx Field?
Perhaps.
Oh, they all got it at FedEx Field. I didn't even think along those lines.
There you go.
I mean, we're ripping off FedEx Field this week. We might as well do it.
Yeah, I did. There you go. So maybe it was all over. Yeah, they may have sprayed the COVID all over the visiting locker room. I have no idea. But it does, as long as everybody's healthy, as long as everyone's asymptomatic, and that there are no health complications from it, it does benefit them in the fact that going forward, they won't have to worry about any of these guys being on the list for the next 90 days, which, carries you through the Super Bowl. For that big Eagles Super Bowl run. So
if they had a Super Bowl, I might have to do a Birds 365 show, just me with my, what's the meme with the face in the front or the paper face, but you're really angry.
That's right.
I would probably do that because I'll say it right now, there's no way the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl. If they do, you guys can record this and I'll just laugh at it. not this year, anyway. There are
going to have to be a lot of mea culpas from all of us in the media and many people in the fan base if this team goes into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, stranger things have happened in the NFL, but I don't know. 7 seeds this year, even in the AFC, I'm not too crazy about where it's the Chargers, the Raiders, the Colts, the Ravens, whoever it might be. But I want to add this in here. Do you like this expanded playoff format? And to add on to this, do you like the Monday Night Wildcard game? Because we're going to get that this year too, and the Eagles could play in that.
Yeah, I don't mind the Monday Night Wildcard game as much. I don't love the expanded playoffs. I mean, I think is it great? Is it extra football? You're asking me as a reporter, not as a fan. If I was just a fan, I'd be like, yeah, more football, great, awesome. As a reporter, I think you kind of watered down the product a little bit, but I understand why they did it. Look at all the permutations that are still around that might get certain teams into the playoffs, and you'll probably have fewer teams resting starters this way. Well, they did it for the money. That's not actually why they did it, but by doing what they did create an extra level of excitement for fan bases around the country. There's no doubt about it.
All right, Moshe, this has been discussed with everybody's been on the show the last couple of days. The last couple of nights I've been on WIP. Eagles have 4 potential playoff opponents they could be facing next weekend.
There we go.
The Cardinals, the Rams, the Bucks, the Cowboys. I'm asking you to put them in a preference order that the Eagles should want to face those teams because they have better chance to beat them than the other teams on the list. So in order, the preference the Eagles should have in facing the 4 potential opponents that they've got in the upcoming playoffs?
All right. I guess number one, I would say I'd probably say the Cowboys number one. They've only beaten one team this year that's above 500. That was the Patriots. That's earlier in the year. They have not played as well down the second half. I obviously still would favor the Cowboys in that game. They'd be at home and everything. But, plus it's a division game. They tend to be wacky, so you can hang around a little bit. So I would say Cowboys one, Arizona number two, because I think you can run the ball against Arizona. I do think the Eagles would be able to move the chains in that regard against the Arizona defense. And, perhaps without DeAndre Hopkins, who I don't think would be back, you might be able to catch Arizona at a time that they're vulnerable. I know they just beat Dallas, but in general, it's not like they've played the way they've played the first 7 or 8 weeks. Number three would be the Rams. I think the Rams just have too many weapons. I think they run. I know that they haven't been great, but they run the ball well. That whoever, Cooper Kupp or Odell Beckham on Steven Nelson is going to be really difficult. And those tight ends and the way they pick apart the middle of the field would be a nightmare, I think, for the Eagles defense. And then obviously the last team is Tampa, because why would you ever, ever, ever want to play Tom Brady in the postseason ever?
Geoff Mosher, football genius.
Yeah.
Believe it or not,
I told him I don't want any part of the Cowboys because I don't like the X's and O's and the mismatches. But that's
man, give me the Cowboys over Tom Brady any day of the week.
Oh, yeah,
ding. Thank you, Geoff Mosher. You can't believe.
I feel like I'm being a pawn here. Was this an argument that you guys just had?
Jeff,
okay.
You got to watch more Birds 365. McMullen, Domowich, Franklin, Kerr, guys on WIP last night, Joe Giglio, Ike Reese. They all wanted Tom Brady before they wanted the Dallas Cowboys. I'm telling you, one after the other I'm the only one sitting here going, have I lost my mind? I got up and walked off the show yesterday when Domowich said, I'd rather play the Bucks than the Cowboys. You and I are simpatico, buddy, but I'm telling you, we're in the minority.
All right. Well, I've been on that island before, so I will die on the hill with you, my friend.
I'll get the coconuts if we're on the island.
By the way, Jody, your boy Cyril Grayson, he'll be the James Starks of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. He will be the James Starks. I do agree with you on that.
Cyril Grayson. I mean, only Tom Brady can make Cyril Grayson a household name.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, and I'm sure you've seen this already. I've said it a couple times at the show. Bears repeating. 32 different scenarios, the way the playoffs can play out. Kemsky did a great job listing them all on Philly Voice. 32 scenarios, 22 of them have the Eagles playing the Bucs. So 60% chance it's going to be against Tampa. Only 5% or 5 potential outcomes that it's the Rams, 4 for the Cardinals, and 2 for the Cowboys. So we're not going to get what we want, which is to face the Cowboys, Jeff. And we're going to get exactly what we don't want, which is chances are it's going to be the Bucs.
Well, stranger things have happened.
Give me a scenario. As much as you and I agree, and we fear and respect Tom Brady, give me a scenario whereby the Eagles beat the Buccaneers.
Tom Brady gets hurt before the game.
There you go.
Now, hey,
but you know what? To be honest with you, real quick, Jeff. We talk about Tom Brady, but their defense is good, and they have the type of defense that I think, and we already saw it. It's I don't want to say it's kryptonite for what the Eagles do, but they can stop the run. They attack the edges really well. Teams that attack the edges, even with secondary players, have performed well against the Eagles this year. Against Jalen Hurts, what he does, the Giants actually have done that. They've brought safety blitzes a lot from his stronger side and kind of kept him in the pocket and made him a thrower. And in those games, both of the games, they lost one. They were struggling in the other. I just think that they're the total recipe. And Dallas's defense is a lot improved from last year, but I don't have a high confidence that they would be either team. But I would just rather not play Tampa.
So here's one for you too, Jeff. We keep talking about the COVID situation. How's the NFL going to handle it if, lo and behold, the golden boy, Tom Brady, tests positive for COVID-19 on the week he plays a playoff game? It's I don't want to get into conspiracy theories here, but does the NFL trying to hide this information from us, or do they try to do whatever they can to make this guy play? I mean, I'm sure they don't want a Sean Mannion, Mike Glennon situation in the postseason.
I'm sure. And in fact, if I were Bruce Arians and the Glazers who own the team, I'd probably be looking into space travel for Tom Brady for the next 7 or 8 days and just get him off the planet. Then, return him right a day. Exactly. Hop on the Bezos rocket, get out of here, and then come back like 5 days before the playoff game begins.
All right, then we appreciate you coming on, Geoff. I'm going to ask you one more question, which I know will annoy football purists out there, but it is what it is. Someone did talk about the scenario whereby if the Steelers lose and the Colts lose, the flex to Sunday night game between the Raiders and the Chargers, if they finish in a tie, both teams would make the playoffs, which I know is 0.0002% chance of happening. But it's the facts, Jack, and they could come together and go, we could just go out and continue to snap the ball and take knees, and we both move on to the playoffs.
I'm all for it.
It's not going to happen. We know it's not going to happen, but it's not a 0% possibility. There's that smallest percent. I think one of the reasons it won't happen is because Rich Bisaccia is the coach of the Raiders, and he's a Yonkers guy. Yonkers guy, I'm a Yonkers guy. Tough guys. We don't do that. We play. We compete. We get out there. How nuts would Goodell go if the one of the two coaches just kind of leaked that as a possibility leading up to the game? We could if someone in a position to potentially make it happen actually said something, what would Goodell's reaction be?
That's a great question, and I'll tell you this: I'm rooting for it. I love chaos. And listen, your boy McMullen says it all the time. The law of unintended consequences when you open up an extra game and you do what you're doing and you leave these scenarios open. I hope it happens. I think it would be fantastic because what you're ideally saying is that if both teams just kneeled on every single snap and they finish with a tie, they're in the playoffs. So why would you actually try to win the game or give yourself a chance to lose the game? I think it's
get rid of ties if you want to get rid of that scenario. That'd be my thing. But
I'm with you. I'm rooting for it.
Two Sunday night, the final game of the season would come down to tanking, and I'm all for it.
Go Jaguars and go Ravens, right? Because that's Pittsburgh's got to lose to Baltimore, and Jags have to beat the Colts.
By the way, here's a crazy fact: the Colts have not beaten the Jaguars in Jacksonville since 2014.
Oh, even better!
How insane is that? The Jaguars have stunk for how long, and the Colts can't beat them there?
I think the Jaguars beat the Colts in Week 1 last year. And I remember I always use that as an example why you never recalibrate after 1 week when the Eagles beat the Falcons in the season opener so badly and everybody's like, whoa, this Eagles team might be amazing. I would say, the Jags beat the Colts last year in Week 1. Let's all just calm down. It's Week 1. There's a lot of Week 1 hijinks every year.
I'm the most wanted man in Houston, Jeff, because I picked the Texans to go 1-16 and they won 4 games. So.
There you go.
Stuck in your eye, Carr. All right, last thing, Jeff. Assuming the Eagles pull in the oars and don't necessarily put forth their best effort to win this game because they got a bunch of their top players not even dressed or on the bench and being overwatched by a security guard that they don't go running out onto the field, what is Sirianni attempting to achieve? Once you put it in its proper perspective, you still got 60 minutes of football to play, and you can get some things done. What do you think Sirianni's looking to do if we got the right read on it? And priority number 1 is don't get key guys hurt. What's priority number 2?
I'm not even sure in a game like this if there is a priority number 2 that even comes close to priority number 1. I mean, winning is great. It continues your win streak, so it feels good. Right, to go into the playoffs, it would be on a 5-game winning streak. But, however, if they lose the game, they're just going to say, well, who cares? No big deal anyway. So it's a real distant number 2 priority, I say, to try to win the game.
All right, you should be checking out their website on a daily basis, InsideTheBirds.com. You catch him on 97.5 once a week with his co-host buddy, Mr. Kaplan. Does a great job. And yes, I want to personally thank you for bringing some sanity back here to Birds 365 by showing the proper reverence for the GOAT, Tom Brady, that the Eagles should want no part of, who they're probably going to get in about 10 days. But you and I will lament that then. Geoff Mosher, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming on board.
All right, no problem. And hey, look, if the Eagles win that game and if the Cowboys or lose that game, the Cowboys go on to win more than we thought. I'll come back and give a mea culpa to you guys, all right? Or to your audience for saying that.
Done deal. And let's see, before Xander shrinks the picture, will Mosher reach for the Cheerios? I know he's dying to. I know he's got the bowl right there. He's ready to go to the Cheerios.
I'm about the coffee right now. I need the coffee.
Geoff, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Geoff Mosher from Inside the Birds here with us on Birds 365. All right, Jeff Kerr, Johnny McDonald. We still got about 7 or 8 minutes left to go. Come back as we put a bow on the show here on Birds 365.